I'm sad, y'all. Today's my last day in Peru. I've been here for a month. This is actually my second visit to Peru. And even after spending a month here, I still feel like there's so much more to do, but I also have learned a lot of things and I've made some mistakes even on the second visit. So in this video, I'm going to tell you 21 things that I wish I knew before I came to Peru. And look, this is just my honest experience. This is what I have experienced. You may have a different opinion, but these are the things that I wish I knew. Some of them might be a little bit controversial. But if you're planning a trip to Peru, hopefully some of these tips can help you. I'm Nate, by the way. I'm the founder of Travel Lemming, an online travel guide. I've got a bunch of different guides, both on our blog at travellemming.com and also other videos about Peru. I've got a video about Machu Picchu, about Lima, about Cusco, and I've got a Peru itinerary video. So after watching this video, go check all that out. We can help you plan your entire trip to Peru. We've got lots of great content. Okay, tip number 1. The elevation in Peru is no joke. You need to be thinking about elevation when you plan your trip. I'm here right now in Cusco, which is about 11,000 feet. This isn't even the highest destination in Peru, but you're very likely to be coming through Cusco on your trip. 11,000 feet is an elevation where most people are likely to get some form of altitude sickness, especially if you're coming from sea level. So you want to be thoughtful about spending some extra time in your itinerary in order to acclimate to the elevation. I did not do this when we flew from Lima to Cusco, and I immediately got a really bad headache on our first day here, and I actually had to go on oxygen. They do sell oxygen in the local pharmacies and stuff. Some of the hotels, including the one I'm staying at now, the JW Marriott El Convento, actually pipe oxygen into the rooms. I've got a whole video reviewing that hotel you can go watch. There's also some medication that you can take. I'm not a doctor, so I don't really feel comfortable giving specific recommendations, but talk to your doctor before you leave, go to a travel clinic, or you can get it here in pharmacies if you're concerned about it. A lot of the local hotels will serve you cocoa tea made with cocoa leaves. That's supposed to help. It's a stimulant. But really the key thing you want to do for the elevation is that you want to spend some time so that your system can get used to the lower oxygen at this level. You might also think about planning your itinerary such that you're not starting in Cusco, but maybe you're starting in the Sacred Valley, which is more like 9,000 feet, which is a better elevation to acclimate. If you go watch my video about the perfect 10-day Peru itinerary, that's exactly what I suggest because I learned the hard way around that starting in Cusco is just a little rough. Tip number 2, don't rush your Peru itinerary. I've met a lot of travelers on my trip here, and I tell you, I get it. Like, you only have limited vacation time, and so people are trying to see all that they can. But Peru is such a huge country, and you need a lot of time to get between places. You also have to plan for the elevation. And so people end up trying to pack too much in, and then they end up missing things. So look, I get the inclination. You want to pack in as much as you can, but be careful when planning your itinerary. Again, I've got a whole itinerary you can follow. I think it's a really good first-time itinerary that takes in the highlights and is done at a realistic pace. Tip number 3 is a quick one, but when you arrive at elevation, any liquids that you've packed are going to spurt out because of the difference in air pressure. Like this happened with our sunscreen. With every single different liquid and cream, you would open it up and it would just start shooting out. So just plan for that. Tip number 4, it's helpful to learn some Spanish for Peru. I actually speak Spanish. Clara, my partner, is an Argentinian, and she taught me to speak Spanish. So I speak it pretty fluently. But the first time I came, I did not speak Spanish. And it is definitely possible to get around in Peru with just English, especially if you're staying in the touristic sites. Like if you're mostly going to Lima, Cusco, the Sacred Valley, English will be fine. Everybody who works at the hotels that we've been staying in, every restaurant, all the servers, they all speak English. All the tour guides speak English. You'll be fine without Spanish, but it's helpful to learn a few phrases. Tip number 5, Peru is actually generally very safe. I know a lot of people are worried about safety in Latin America, and I'm not telling you that there aren't parts that might be a little unsafe, but in general, if you're sticking to the places that are on the tourist path, you should be fairly safe. You know, pay attention to the normal things, look out for pickpockets when you're in crowded squares, things like that. But violent crime, that sort of stuff, it doesn't really happen that much here. Peru's tourism industry is really big business, so they invest a lot in security. I mean, you see police everywhere. This honestly feels safer than many cities in the United States. Tip number 6, you've got a lot of different ways to get around in Peru. Peru has several different trains. Most famously, you can take the train to Machu Picchu. There's also a bus network. Peru Hop is a popular bus ticket that you can buy that kind of helps you to do the southern route where you can just hop on and off on the bus. For longer visits, you might consider doing that. If you're like most travelers and you're only here for a week or two, I would recommend taking the planes. They have really good airports here. You can get between places pretty quickly by taking some planes. In terms of getting around locally, like within the Sacred Valley and stuff, you can obviously go via organized tour. I would not recommend renting a car up in the mountains because the Andes are just, unless you're really used to mountain driving, it's pretty wild up here. But you can hire a private driver for pretty reasonable rates. We've hired a couple different private drivers for something in the neighborhood of $60 to $120 a day, depending on how long the day is. You can hire a private driver. If you've got a group, that's an easy way to get around. So you've got lots of options for transportation in Peru. Speaking of, tip number 7 is that Uber works pretty well in Peru, particularly in Lima and also in Cusco. Uber is cheap, it's fast, it's the best way to get around if you want to get between places. I've even seen it available to get like from here to the Sacred Valley, like an hour and a half away. I'm not sure that I would rely on it to get back, but I have heard people who have done that. So Uber works in Peru. Tip number 8. You do not have to go trekking in order to travel to Peru. I know a lot of the content you see online from other bloggers, from other YouTubers, centers around taking the famous treks like the Inca Trail. And if that's what you want to do, like by all means, that's great. But the majority of tourists to Peru are not doing like the multi-day treks where you camp overnight. So you could get the wrong impression because a lot of the content creators tend to be younger and they tend to be more in that backpacker set. You can absolutely do it, but you don't need to do that. You can do Peru at whatever level you want. They actually have a really good luxury tourism here. I've got videos of a few different luxury hotels that are really nice. So don't feel like Peru is a destination where you have to have hiking boots in order to do it. I mean, there is a lot of walking up and down and like, you know, you're going upstairs to access some of these sites, but the multi-day trek stuff, that's not necessary if you don't want to do it. Tip number 9. If you're going to Machu Picchu, you need to book your tickets months in advance. The first time I went to Machu Picchu, this wasn't an issue. You just bought a ticket and you went in and it wasn't a big deal, but it has become so overrun by tourists that they started to worry about the tourists maybe destroying the site. And so in 2019, Machu Picchu instituted a timed entry system. You have to buy a ticket to enter on a set day at a set time on a set circuit. And there are like 10 different circuits. And they do sell out pretty far in advance. So you're going to want to buy that ticket and then plan your whole trip around that entry time. I've got a whole video on Machu Picchu that talks all about how to navigate it. It's really complex. But that brings me to my next tip, which is number 10, which is Machu Picchu has a ton of rules these days. And they're constantly changing, but some of the key ones to understand are you have to enter at your set day and time. If you go later, they won't let you in. You have to go one way around your circuit. It's one way only. There are 10 different circuits, and whatever circuit you're on, that's the only one you're allowed to do. Not all of the circuits have a viewpoint of Machu Picchu, so you want to be very careful about which ones you buy. Additionally, there's a bunch of things that you're not allowed to bring to Machu Picchu. You're not allowed to bring an umbrella. You're not allowed to bring a tripod. There's one thing that you have to bring, which is your passport, because your ticket is in your name and only you can use it. So if you get all the way to the top of Machu Picchu and you forgot your passport at your hotel, you're not going to have time to get it before you get in. Also in Machu Picchu, there are no bathrooms within the site, so you need to use the bathroom before you go in. So bottom line is that Machu Picchu requires a lot of planning, which is why my tip number 11 is to have a backup plan for Machu Picchu, because it is possible that at the time that you enter, there's fog that blocks the view of Machu Picchu. You know, high up on those mountains, they get a lot of fog. And this actually happened to us last week when we visited. We booked a ticket for 7 a.m. because we had read online that that's the best time to enter because you get the soft morning light for photos. But the problem is that when we got to the viewpoint, it was completely blocked by fog. And we waited for 3 hours because if we go forward on that circuit, you can't go back and you miss the viewpoint. Thankfully, the night before, we made a backup plan and we bought a second ticket. I talk all about that in my Machu Picchu video, which you're definitely going to want to watch if you're planning to visit Machu Picchu. But basically the summary is I would suggest if you're visiting during rainy season, which runs from like October to April, you would probably want to buy a backup ticket. Circuit 1B is just a photo spot and makes for a good backup. So what we did was we bought a second ticket at 10 a.m. And so that allowed us to go through our original circuit, come back, and go back again. And thankfully, by that second time, the fog had cleared and we were able to get some beautiful footage of Machu Picchu. So I think it really helps to have a backup plan, particularly during rainy season. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, Nate, I'm going to Machu Picchu pretty soon and all the tickets are sold out. Well, that brings me to tip number 12. Machu Picchu actually has 1,000 last-minute tickets that they release the day before. They release them in the office in Aguas Calientes or Machu Picchu town. They open early in the morning and it's just kind of first come, first serve. Those 1,000 tickets are for variation of all of the different circuits. So if you wanted to do, say you wanted to hike Huayna Picchu or Machu Picchu, but those tickets weren't available when you booked online, you could go the day before and you could try to buy some of those last minute tickets. This is how we were able to get that second backup plan ticket to visit Circuit 1B. During the low season, there were actually quite a lot of tickets available, even at 9 p.m. the night before. Then if they're still available the day of, you can book them online. That's pretty rare during high season, but during the low season, we did see that there were still some tickets that morning as I went up online. So if you think the tickets are sold out, either go in person the day before, that's the best option, or if you can't do that, as soon as you wake up, the morning, the day of, check and see, because you might be able to buy another circuit. Again, Machu Picchu is really complicated. There's lots of rules. If it's important to your trip, go watch my Machu Picchu video. It's really going to help you make sure that you have the best possible trip. This is particularly true if you're visiting during the rainy season, which brings me to tip number 13. Peru doesn't have so much of traditional seasons as it has a rainy season and a dry season. And although it varies a little depending on where you are, here in the Andes, the rainy season runs roughly from October to like early mid-April. And then the dry season is from late April until the end of September. Dry season is high season. That's because that's when you have the best chance at a clear view of the ruins. But at the same time, it also means that things sell out. It's harder to get tickets. Hotel prices are higher. I have visited twice during the rainy season, and honestly, it's fine. You can see behind me, there are some clouds. We got a little bit of rain earlier today. We got some yesterday, but it doesn't rain all day. And as long as you're prepared, I think it's fine to visit during the rainy season. Now, my tip number 14 is that you will actually experience all four seasons in one day here in Peru, because the temperature varies a lot throughout the day. That's particularly true here in Cusco and in the Andes. Just a couple hours ago, I was like kind of sweating when I started filming an earlier video. And now I've had to put on the poncho because as the sun is going down behind me, it's starting to get pretty cool. And later on tonight, I'm actually going to have to put on a sweater underneath this and also a jacket because it'll get fairly cold out walking around Cusco. So it's really important to dress in layers for Peru. The same is actually true even in Lima. Although Lima has a very temperate climate, it doesn't rain very much. It's generally pretty comfortable during the day, but you still might want a jacket in the evening. So you're going to need to dress in layers. My tip number 15 though is don't pack your suitcase full because you're going to want to leave some space to bring things home. You'll find so many incredible textiles or little gifts like these little alpacas and llamas being sold in markets or by local community members out on the streets. You might want to buy a poncho like this for Machu Picchu. We have bought a lot of clothes, a lot of different cool gifts here. Shopping is, even if you're not someone who usually likes shopping, this is a really great place to shop because there really is a lot of locally produced goods that you can buy that are really interesting. I think you're going to want to buy some things. So plan for that when you're packing your suitcase. My tip number 16 is that when you are buying things at markets or from local sellers, it is okay to negotiate. Like there is definitely a haggling culture here. This is one of those things, like Clara's Argentinian, so she's very aggressive about trying to get the best price possible. And I'm just like, whatever, to the first price they say. But know that there is a haggling culture and you can negotiate a little bit. That's also true, by the way, with like private drivers, taxis, everything's kind of negotiable. Tip number 17, you'll see a lot of things being advertised as baby alpaca wool. And baby alpaca wool is really, it's so soft. And that's why they advertise it. But it's not actually from baby alpacas. When I first heard that, I was like, are they torturing these poor baby alpacas? But no, what they mean by baby alpaca is they mean it's the first time that alpaca has been sheared. But that's not typically going to happen until they're an adolescent. So baby alpaca just means like the softest, highest quality alpaca wool, but it's not actually from a baby. Tip number 18, be prepared for hills. I said earlier that you don't have to go trekking to do Peru, and that's absolutely true. But even just walking around the cities here, like Cusco is built within the hills, and a lot of Peru is in the Andes. So everything is at an elevation. So you're going up, you're going down. You know, you need to wear comfortable walking shoes. If you have mobility issues, you can still visit, but you might want to really be thoughtful about planning your trip. You could use Ubers to get around in that case. Getting in like the same number of steps here versus back home, it's going to feel a lot more here because of the elevation. You have less oxygen, and then also you're going up and down. So just be prepared for that. There's a lot of hills here in Peru. Tip number 19, when you visit Cusco in the Sacred Valley, you want to buy this. This is the Boleto Turistico, or the tourist ticket. It includes entry. I got a 10-day ticket. There are a couple different versions, but I recommend the 10-day one. This includes entry to 16 different sites. We have done 13 of these sites, which I'm really proud of because it takes a lot of time to go to all these different places. But it includes entry to several of the most important historical sites in Cusco, including the Sexy Woman archaeological ruins just outside of Cusco. And yes, I think I said that right. It does sound like Sexy Woman. It's a catch-all word. Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But this ticket will also get you entry to Ollantaytambo, to the ruins at Moray. It will get you entry to Chinchero. So all of those are sites that I recommend visiting. You can only visit a bunch of those sites with this ticket. It also includes some other museums, some other things that maybe aren't as important are on that ticket. If you're coming to Cusco, watch my video about Cusco. I go down every single one of those 16 things and I tell you which ones are worth it and which ones aren't. But I recommend buying that ticket. You can buy it at all of the sites. So when you go to the first of those sites, you'll have to buy one of those tickets. I recommend buying the 10-day ticket. You need your passport that first time, and then afterwards, they just punch a hole as you go through each place. Okay, tip number 20, when planning your itinerary, don't sleep on Lima. A lot of people skip Lima. You don't want to skip Lima. It's such a cool city. It is like a world-class city, y'all. It's got a bigger population than London or Paris. There's so many things to do in Lima. I have spent almost a month total across 2 visits in Lima, and I'm still discovering stuff. You've got ancient pyramids, you've got food and dining, you've got a historical site, you've got catacombs, you've got all kinds of museums. And it's such a different side of Peru compared to the Andes, and it's actually where most Peruvians live. So I highly recommend spending at least a couple days in Lima. I've got an entire video to Lima that talks about all the cool things to do there. Go watch that, or you can also Google the Travel Lemming Lima Guide. And I've got a written guide that will tell you everything you need for planning for Lima. By the way, folks, this is called Inca Kola. You might have seen me drinking this in some of our videos. You see it everywhere. I know it looks like bright neon yellow. I think it's really delicious. I think it tastes like Big Red. If we've got anyone from Texas out there, you can tell me if I'm right about that. They also have a 0 sugar version, which is what I'm drinking now. Definitely try some Inca Kola while you're in Peru. Okay, final tip. Tip number 21. Peru is too big for one trip. It's got many different regions, so relax a little bit. Don't try to do it all in one go. Unless you've got like a couple months here, you're just not going to accomplish that anyway. So don't try to fit too much in. I mean, Peru obviously has the Andes Mountains. It has the coastal desert area around Lima, but it also has the Amazon. There are so many different regions that you can visit. There's so much to do. You're not going to fit it all in one trip. If you want to have like the perfect Peru itinerary all planned out for you, I've got an entire video where I talk about a 10-day, 9-night itinerary that I think would be just perfect for Peru. You can go and watch that video next. I've also got all kinds of links and guides that I've written after having spent a month here in Peru. You can find those wherever the links are. You can also Google Travel Lemming Peru and you can find my guides. Y'all, I really hope you enjoyed these videos. Like, if you've watched this far, let me know in the comments because it takes a lot of effort to make these things. Like, I've been making videos during this whole stay here instead of going out and enjoying. I really want to get out there and explore more of Cusco with the last few hours I have. So give me a like, give me a subscribe, leave me a comment if I've been helpful to you. And if you like this video, I think you'll really like this one next.